Last week, on the Lords of Grantham podcast, we talked episode 4 of Queen Charlotte, Holding the King. In that episode, King George, we saw the story from his side, how he met Queen Charlotte, what his struggles were with his mental health, and then also how he was introduced to Dr. Monroe and how this man is seeking to treat him, which involves a lot of abuse and manhandling and torture. And that is some rough stuff, and it's going to continue this week, and we'll see where it goes from there. This week on the Lords of Grantham podcast.
I wanna run through your wicked garden, but that's the place to find you. 'Cause I'm alive, so alive now. I know the darkness finds you.
And despite the toxic smog over the East Coast, the Lords of Grantham are back. On the tail end of Queen Charlotte. How you doing, Corey?
I'm surviving. How about you, Dave?
I'm surviving. I think what came through here went further down to you. So I think we're done with the bulk of the smog, as it were.
You say that, but it looks like it's still lingering where you are too, man. I don't know, man. I'm just adjusting to the new world.
Yeah.
Of just breathing in burnt hair,
breathing
air.
in fumes.
Yeah.
Like just when we think we can be outside without a mask.
Yeah,
Nope.
Yeah, for people not in the loop, we're on the East Coast in the Northeast of America, and we just had the Canadian wildfires rolling on through here, all the smoke coming through that, and it's been quite congested around here, you could say.
Yeah, it's pretty strange. I know I've seen some West Coast people post things like, "Welcome to our world," and it's like, your world stinks if that's your world. It's terrible.
I'm flying out to LA tomorrow morning, and it's a bizarre turn of events that I'm looking forward to. The air out there versus over here. What are these days? What are these times?
You're going smog to smog.
Less smog, though, than the current smog.
Well, yeah, like permanent smog versus...
I mean, I live in New York. It's a deal you make with the devil, but I mean, it's particularly
yeah, it's
bad
not
right
quite
now.
smog. It's like essence.
Yeah. Well, enough of us rambling about that stuff. We're here to talk about Queen Charlotte.
Yeah. Any news on the front of our other shows? Any more stirring of information following that Downton article a couple weeks ago?
Well, there was news about The Crown that the bosses revealed that the future of the Netflix show after its 6th and final season at the end of the year is that they're looking to maybe continue it in some way, even though they believe the run would end at the 6th season. So they're looking at creating a movie or perhaps a series of specials. That means the creators would also have some more flexibility to jump around in terms of times and topics. They could even deliver a prequel focusing on the abdication crisis in the 1930s, maybe like a Queen Charlotte story where it's a pre the crown. Down the line, there's the option to revisit the 21st century royals, perhaps focusing on Harry meeting Meghan and his fallout with William. And you're seeing this all the time with these franchises that are just running out of gas. How can they spin off some kind of stories to kind of keep the juggernaut going, even though the main story is done?
We say that as we are prepared to discuss a franchise that had a poor second or poorly received second season and used a spin-off to get its juice back. So
yeah, I mean,
hey, we'll take it.
Some people liked the second season; it just wasn't as widely watched, and yeah, it had to reboot already. Whatever it takes, I guess, to get things back on track. The Crown, I don't know. I think it's just they're just running out of story there.
Just pick a new country.
Yeah, there's so many countries in the world.
Just do America.
Why not? Or just make it up. Look how popular Succession was. Why don't you have some original ideas for once? Peter Morgan, huh?
Yeah, Peter.
Look at Julian Fellows. That guy's full of original ideas.
Yeah. And look at Shonda. She changes the colors of famous people and carries on.
Facts. Just facts left and right here. But we are on episode 5 of Queen Charlotte, Gardens in Bloom. And they are absolutely in bloom. Where do we want to start? There's a lot going on in the future. There's a lot going on in the past. I think maybe we start with the past, but what do you think, Dave?
I think the future is a much well. No, never mind. I take
past
that back. I
informs the
forget that
future.
the future has the past future does have has more than one storyline, whereas the past also has more than one storyline. So let's dabble in the old school, the younger folks,
Okay.
before we jump into the tending of the gardens, if you will.
Sure.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
do we want to start? Let's start with. I feel like it's very simple. Last week we had like a half-hour episode because it was just torturing the king.
Yep.
This week I feel like we kind of have Queen Charlotte's got a fairly simple plot going on here.
Yeah.
She is a prisoner in her own home once again.
Mm-hmm.
But once this gynecologist visits, we're in full-on you are our prisoner mode. Princess Augusta wants to move in, and there's no sign of escape. She's writing letters every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making their way to the king, despite the best effort of our boy Brimsley.
Yeah. She is there to keep an eye on Charlotte and make sure that she's going to be pregnant, and she's going to see through that pregnancy and deliver that grandchild.
Grandson, as they keep saying, which is awfully presumptuous.
I mean, you got to manifest these things, Dave.
I guess so. But yes, poor Queen Charlotte is stuck in this prison of her own family's doing, which
Yeah.
we see that Brimsley is giving these letters to Reynolds, who is trying his best to get them to the king.
Mm-hmm.
But our
Getting swatted down.
boy,
They're not getting
Dr.
there.
Monroe, yeah, they're not getting there. He's saying, I'm the king's man.
Yeah.
I'm the king's man. Show me the king.
Yeah. And he won't. He gets denied. So it's this odd thing where we got George going through his whole stuff, and then meanwhile we also had Charlotte, and was it the dowager arrived with her own royal physician, and he's sticking his clamps up in her. So like they're all getting operated on right now, and I don't think they're liking it.
No, not at all. And Charlotte says, my best bet is to get out of this place.
Yep.
And what better way to get out of this place than by calling my brother Dolph?
And I mean, just to add to that though, she is getting rubbed the wrong way. So not only does Augusta have her physician working on her, they also have the scene where she's painting Queen Charlotte, and Augusta's requesting that make the skin a shade lighter, as if they're trying to hide her natural dark skin color. She's just rubbing her the wrong way, on top of just being present there. So as you're saying though, she asked for her brother Duke Adolphus. I mean, that's not his name, but he's the Duke, and his name is Adolphus. Duke Adolphus to show up. Because she wants to leave her country, but she can't leave it without a safe protector.
Yeah, and we see that this moment of Brimsley's always bringing letters to Reynolds, and Reynolds is then trying to bring them to King George, and Brimsley comes and Reynolds says, all right, you got the letter, and Brimsley says, this is not the letter you think it is, and I'm not just here to flirt with you, as sometimes we do. He says, this is for the brother, and she wants out, and you got to give me something. You're not giving me anything. And Reynolds is like, dude, I don't have anything.
And she can't leave the country. She's not allowed to.
Yeah, she's property of the country.
Yeah.
I keep getting thrown through doors. I keep getting assaulted for trying to see my man, my friend.
Yeah. And so Charlotte is just pretty much beside herself, as she has pretty much been for most of the series at this point, aside from taking charge a couple times. But she's in a bad mood, and yeah, the Duke Adolphus, he shows up, and he's just kind of like, get up, come on, you're the queen, be the queen. And
yeah,
she's just reiterating to him, I want to go home. And he's just letting her know, well, you're being a little bit emotional right now. Not to overstep my boundaries, okay, sis?
Yeah.
But you're being a little emotional. And
you're a little much for me right now. I traveled all this way to see you. You're telling me you just want to go back?
They're going blow for blow. She says she would have him beheaded for saying that. Whoosh.
She can.
Yeah. But I mean, and he's just reminding her, your body, it's a tree. The child inside you isn't yours. It's not your own. It's the country's.
So you're a vessel for the future. Mm-hmm. Says your body is a wonderland, featuring a tree.
Yes, a wooden, splintered wonderland.
It's got to grow.
It's got to grow. And he reminds her, too, we negotiated this engagement. This alliance means Germany's defended by Britain. Okay? It doesn't matter how you're feeling, You gotta go through with this.
And I think Charlotte kind of realizes in that moment, like, oh boy, he's right, isn't he?
Right.
Our country will get stepped on and smushed if we don't have the protection of the Brits.
And I think one of the key things that resonates with her, too, is just... the king isn't there, You need to step up. You're the queen. Because George is off getting a pike shoved up him somewhere.
Shock therapy.
Maybe. We don't see all of it.
Nope.
But, yeah, I mean, she's still... She's heartbreaking until it's, like, all right, I need to go see this guy. Because as my brother reminded me, I'm the queen. I can do what I want. And, there's this whole other thing where, what is it? I think Augusta says to her duty's done, and they don't have to see each other until another child needs to be born,
Yeah, she's like, you should be happy. And Charlotte's like, look, that's a you thing, but for me, I'm here for love.
Yeah.
I want to be with my man. I don't want to be alone. I feel like loneliness and love are the themes of, and the concept of love are the big themes of this episode. And not wanting to be lonely.
Who wants to be lonely? And yeah, so the queen again is crying to herself, but yeah, she has more resolve because Brimsley says, look, man, George teeters on disaster. You need to see your man. And
Brimsley's like, let's do it, bro. Let's go.
And she does it. She shows up. And, I mean, the images we see of King George being tortured this episode looks like a sorority house where he's just getting dunked repeatedly in water.
Yeah, it's his ice bucket challenge. Over. Again!
Yeah. Longer. And he's about to set the record. They show him drinking beer from a funnel. And, they also show him...
He's doing a keg stand at one point.
He's doing a keg stand upside down at one point. It's pretty crazy what they're getting up to there.
They're like, we need him to hit the world record of 35 seconds of drinking Bud Light.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't, man. I'm the king, man.
He's doing the Hot Ones challenge at one point. He's eating the bomb.
Yeah, they walk in and there's one of those the Harlem Shake moment going on.
It's a strange time there. The moment that got me though is when they go to save him and they got like a heated rod as if they're branding him. Like, what are you trying to achieve there? How does that solve anything?
Yeah, no, I guess I don't know if we discussed this last week because that was such a quick episode on our part and such a straightforward episode in the show. Dr. Monroe comes in as the voice of reason when he interrupts this sort of treatment going on, and he says, like, no, I'm the only guy who can help here.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, sure, do whatever you got to do. Now, is he a conniving, evil scientist, a mad scientist, or does he truly believe that the ice bucket challenge and shock therapy and prodding and leeches is the way to cure him? Because he seems purely evil in this episode.
But he sincerely believes what he's doing is working, I think, right? He reminds me...
Doesn't Reynolds say he's doing it for 3 hours? That he's...
Yeah, I mean, he kind of reminds me of, like, Dwight from Poldark, the good-natured doctor, but with the capabilities of Dr. Choke, the hated-on bad doctor on the show. It's like this guy, I think he may think he's doing the right thing. He's just not good at his job, and he may be a quack. And he is a quack.
He's like the doctor in Downton that says that Sybil is not going to die.
Right, exactly. And then Sybil dies, and it's like, what, Doctor? Come on, man. What are we paying you? That is Dr. Monroe. I think he's just incompetent at the end of the day. I mean, someone do some research. I'm not asking our listeners, but like someone at this house, do some research to understand where this guy came up with his methods, because they are not.
Yeah, it seems like there's an awful lot of trust in this guy who is, at the very least, making the king scream in agony for hours a day.
I mean, is there any proof that this had worked in the past? We don't know. All we know is there was a bunch of pledges that took place, and these people went through it, and they're all part of a society now. Anyways, she makes her point. She's like, "I'm taking him. We'll get him cleaned up, have him get a good meal, get him dressed. He can hang
with the Y.
Yeah, he can hang out with the boys again. That's all he needs is a place to go, like the YMCA." Dr. Monroe.
Well, she comes in and she tries to do the thing where she's like, "I'm your Venus, I'm your fire, your desire." And he's not snapping out of it.
No.
And she keeps singing the song. That she sings the second verse, sings the chorus again.
That's how she knows something.
She's like, "I got a baby in me. I'm you're still," and she's like, "This guy's still crazy." And he finally comes to for a moment, right?
Yeah. And you think about it, like the mean that they're trying to bring him to, you think, is maybe something entirely numb, because as you're saying there, he's already forgetting who Charlotte is and what she means to him. So they're like, I guess the way to fix him would just kind of be remove any sense at all, and
make him a clean slate.
Yeah, which is not the best way to be. So thank God Charlotte shows up and
thank God
says, "You need a good meal, you need to get you some clean clothes, and you need to hang out with your boys." And she lets Dr. Monroe go. She's like, "You know what? We don't need your services anymore, sir. Be gone."
She says, "Dr. Monroe, you're fired."
Yeah. "I got the Dowager's physician working on me. He's got his clamps and stuff. I don't need you." Which was
earlier in the episode, she tries to sort of finagle her way into seeing Dr. Monroe by saying to Brimsley, I believe.
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, I need to see Dr. Monroe for my pregnancy," and Brimsley's like, "No, you don't. You're good."
Yeah, you wonder about that too, because they made such a point of it that he was going to be her physician, and we don't really see him doing any physician work. I'd like to see like them stretch that, like how far off the reservation was Dr. Monroe with what he would have done as her gynecologist.
As a gynecologist,
trying to figure out what's going on there. What kind of clamps did he have?
It'd be like dead ringers.
Yes, like Jeremy Irons.
He'd be very happy.
Or Rachel Weisz, or whatever dead ringers you watch. I do like how she just storms in there and says, "Untie the king," because he is the king, and they got this iron rod that they're about to shove up him, and it's just like,
so he does one more task until he's in the sorority or fraternity.
Imagine if that was like the last one. They just had to get it done that day, and he would have been good. He would have been.
All we got to do is sodomize him with an iron rod,
and they just
that's on fire, or that's hot.
But Charlotte had to show up and break it up. Well, that keg is tapped. That's hoping that. I hope that they have some moments of bliss next week, because throughout these 5 episodes
we know what
so
the
far,
future looks like.
We know it's not going to be great, but I feel like the show hasn't given us enough moments of bliss between the two of them. Like, we get that there's almost like a, or at least I feel there's like some kind of like bonding through having to go through these tumultuous events for them, but I have yet to see enough of them falling for each other. Aside from that opening scene where they meet and have the meet cute, they do like they do have some commonalities, but this series is rough with these two, man.
Yeah, the relationship is not healthy.
Yeah, it's tough, and you know who else has it tough, Dave?
Lady Agatha Danbury.
Absolutely. Her husband.
She's just trying. She says, "I'm not mourning. I got nothing to be mourning about. Yeah. I'm just chilling. I'm out here drinking port wine in the morning." And she says probably the most disturbing thing that any narrative of any of these shows that we watch has had, where she tells her maid that she was basically betrothed to Lord Danbury when she was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And she said she never had any individuality. She never had any power of her own. And her favorite color was Lord Danbury's favorite color. And her favorite food was Lord Danbury's favorite food from the age of 3.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'm my own person right now. I don't even like port wine. Port wine stinks.
Yeah. My favorite color is gold. And you know, I have all the same favorites as him, but like, what does that mean? You know?
What does that mean?
It's pretty rough.
And then she gets another visit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the people of color who have been brought in for this grand experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all scared.
Yeah.
Because the fact that Lord Danbury is passed means that Lady Danbury's family, her children, Dominic, her son, is going to set the precedent for how the next generation of all these people of color in these new social positions will be.
Yeah.
Because there's no promise that Dominic Danbury, or whatever his last name is, will be the next Lord Danbury.
And part of that is because when they promised the house that they got for her sharing information to elevate them, well, it was given to him, Lord Danbury, not necessarily to her. Well, there's the concern that it may not. She has to check the papers and check with Augusta on that, but there's a chance she could lose that. And on top of that, they don't have much of a fortune because what money he had, he spent it on trying to impress her and live that lifestyle, that style and profile.
Yeah, we find that out later in the episode through the solicitor.
Yeah.
That, you know, last week we had a lot of time to fill, and it was a fairly short and straightforward episode. Mm-hmm. This one clocks in at $1.15.
Oh, can we talk about that for a second? On Netflix, it says that episode is an hour long, and then when I put it on, it's an hour 17 minutes. I was like, oh, come on now. I got time, man.
You're tricking me.
I don't got the time. I got 77 minutes. And then, Dave, to preface, next week, Netflix tells you when you look on there, it's an hour. Spoiler, it's an hour 26 minutes, man. Make sure you got time.
Oh, boy. Uh-oh.
Listeners, if you're watching along like we have, brace yourselves for that extra 26 minutes that you may be getting.
That's a movie we're watching.
Yeah.
So, the scenes that we don't need, we have Lady Danbury rummaging through all of Lord Danbury's notes looking for a name. And she's like, this solicitor will help me. And Coral is like, why don't you just wait? You'll find it sometime. She goes, oh, I just found it. It's the solicitor. Like, why? Why do we need these exposition dumps to find out who the solicitor are? Can't you just say, I wrote to the solicitor. He's going to come and talk to me.
Yeah.
But regardless, the solicitor comes and says that all of this stuff that old man Lord Danbury has been saying to his wife, Agatha Danbury, who he sort of acted like he's the owner of in a lot of ways, is a crock of you-know-what.
Yeah.
That he has been spending all of his money to keep up a lifestyle that he can't keep up. And that he even put some money down on this house. He even paid a little bit to have some things done to this house. So if they no longer retain the name, and if the Queen or if the Princess Augusta and those folks make the call, Lord Bute make the call that they're out of there, they're going to be broke.
Yeah. Hard times.
Uh-huh. But that's not stopping her from taking some walks.
Yeah. Because they have the funeral, and she spots a guy there, and he happens to be Lord Ledger.
Mm-hmm.
We'd seen him earlier in the show, and I forget what the context was. I think he was...
Was he at the ball?
Yeah, maybe that's where he was.
Danbury Ball?
In episode 3.
He was not very memorable, but he must have been to Agatha.
Yeah, I remember his name showing up, Ledger. And maybe we'd have a better recall of him if we just binged these episodes, but you know how we do it here. So, yeah, she's like, yeah, well, let's go for walks, let's ramble.
Mm-hmm.
And, they just spend more time walking around, rambling. Well, part of it...
Seems like they spend like 3 days walking. Doesn't seem like much.
Yeah, to be clear, she actually was just going out for a walk, and I think she may have been looking for him. We don't know, but she comes to that house, that it looks like a shed, but it's a house, and that's where he resides. And
I don't think that's where he lives. I think that's like on the property line of his property.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like a shack. It might be like, a place to grab a drink or something if you're on a hunt or something along those lines.
Yeah, but that's where
a place for one of his groundkeepers. But that's where they meet up. Yes.
Yes, and that's where they keep walking and rambling and getting to know each other.
Yeah, and he's he's a widower himself, so he's explaining to her like you just kind of got to keep at it. Yeah. Moving your feet will cure what ails you. It'll help you get over your qualms in life. And they just keep doing it, and I'll be honest, I don't see the romantic chemistry at all.
The guy's a little old
here.
Maybe she's just brainwashed to be with older men from upbringing. I don't know. I don't see it either, Dave. Listeners, tell us where we're missing something here with Lord Ledger.
Yeah, he doesn't have, there's nothing about this guy that is like, because I don't think we're being too presumptuous when we say that Agatha Danbury is a catch and change. She is clearly she's pulling the social strings.
Yeah,
she's already got a lot of kids, so she's got that going for her, and she meets this old weird man.
I don't know if he's weird. The guy just likes to make hats.
That's
the weird.
Yeah, he makes her a birthday hat because she says her birthday's coming up.
Yeah. He's even talking to his daughter, and he's like, you know me, I make hats. We all know this. And it's like, we do? Okay. Yeah. Hat man.
Now, that's the second occurrence of birthday crowns being brought up in this show.
Yeah.
Because Lady Bridgerton has said in the prior episode about how she misses that silliness with her husband, and I think, was that Lady Danbury that got upset with her? Yeah, it was Lady Danbury that got upset with her. Mm-hmm. So a little more context as to why maybe she snapped when Lady Bridgerton brought up the birthday hats.
But she's going through it because someone says maybe you need to remarry, and this is after she'd just been with her son, because now she's just kind of feeling this pressure again to re-enter into something that was she had a rough marriage, and she doesn't want to. She's traumatized by that clearly, and so she throws the bed around. She's really upset. And hey, this Ledger guy's in front of you. He's making hats.
Yeah.
Maybe he's worth something. And so I don't think we're missing much, but they do get to knocking boots.
Yeah, and they show in the flash forwards about the sort of the sensual feelings that humans have.
Before we get to that, though, I mean, They do this thing where she keeps staring at the ceiling that she'd always stare at when the guy was dry humping her.
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
Oh,
so
okay.
In the flash forward, she does that, and we're kind of like, oh yeah, but that's where she did it with their weird old man with no teeth. Mm-hmm. And then we see her in bed with Lord Ledger, and she's like, nah, my friend, we're switching positions on this one.
Right, and that's the thing is like all of a sudden we realize, oh, that's what she's recalling, the good moments with him, and yeah, she switches positions on him. I don't need to stare at. She doesn't have to stare at the ceiling anymore. She can look down on him, and then think to herself, "Man, this guy is old. Is this the right guy?"
I got a type, I guess.
Maybe
even if I don't like him.
I get the thematic resonance of that ceiling, and kind of her turning the tables and all that stuff. I think it would have been a smidge hotter, just for me, if they started knocking boots in that shed, or at least showed him at that shed doing something.
Yeah, because they do the thing where in the flash forward they show older Lady Agatha at the cabin, and it's all decrepit and broken down, and I think it's supposed to, at that point in the episode they had almost kissed each other and then parted ways. Right. So I think they're supposed to be like lovelorn, like they never pulled the trigger.
And they do that thing where they pull the camera back and they're framed within the windowsill, where she's just left alone, trapped. But yeah, man, I think there's a missed opportunity with that shed.
Well, who knows? Because we talk about the flash forward. It doesn't seem like there's any shortage of relations between these two.
Yeah, let's get the UV lights. Let's go investigate.
Yeah, let's call the room raiders and we'll look into that old cabin.
Just hats everywhere. But I think that wraps up.
We also skipped over the scene where we briefly touched on it, where young Lady Danbury brings her son Dominic to meet Princess Augusta, and she I think this is where her boldness is starting to get to her.
Yeah.
Because she just straight up says to Princess Augusta with that son of a gun Lord Butte right there. She goes, "This is Lord Danbury, Lord Dominic Danbury."
Yeah.
And Princess Augusta's like, "Well, hello, Lord." And Butte's like, "No, we ain't doing this now. We got to have a meeting." And then they all sort of retreat and discuss, and then
Right, because there's
like,
implications
all right,
there. If she were to acknowledge her son, Danbury Dominic, she may risk putting out there that he's entrusted with the house to receive it and everything.
yeah, exactly.
But I think she's in the clear because we did skip over too that there is a scene between Charlotte and Danbury this episode where Charlotte's giving her condolences, and Danbury's like, "Where's your man? You need your man."
And Charlotte's like, "Oh, by the way, I live here now."
Yeah, doing just
and
fine.
Danbury's like, "What's going on?" And Charlotte's like, "I don't want to be with Princess Augusta. I want to live with you. Mm-hmm. You're my friend, right?" And Lady Danbury's like, "What is going on?"
Yeah,
And then it takes our boy Adolphus to get her out.
Yeah,
Adolphus and Brimsley.
Danbury immediately goes to Duke Adolphus and is like, "Hey, your sister, she's wilding right now."
Well, we skipped over the part where Brimsley puts Adolphus in his place.
That's true.
Where Adolphus is like, "Where's my sister? Where's my sister?" And Brimsley's like, "That's none of your business. She's the queen, and I'm her keeper. I have no duty to you, Adolf. Why don't you go home?
Yeah.
Enjoy your name, because in a couple hundred years, no one's going to be able to use it."
And Brimsley has another good moment this episode where you see him sympathizing for Queen Charlotte, where she's sulking and he's trying to reach out his hand against her, but he doesn't touch her, and you feel for him like, man, this guy cares so much and can only do so much in his role.
Yeah, and I think we see a little bit of the sort of duality between Reynolds and Brimsley, where they're both like, Reynolds is clearly pushed to the brink of like, I got to go in there and help my guy who I work for. And Brimsley has only been with Queen Charlotte for a couple weeks, but we start to see him like, I really care about this person. And that the connection is there. I'm really curious where these two are. We know where Brimsley winds up in the end.
Right.
But I'm really curious how Reynolds is going to factor into this last episode.
And the other thing too with Brimsley is like, I know they gave us a beat the other week of showing that he still is close with older Queen Charlotte, but it does strike as the classic case of like, only after they cast Brimsley in the first season did they realize, we want to do more with this character in the flashback, because it doesn't really align with the Brimsley we see today. Like there just seems to be a disconnect where he just seems a little bit more of a shell of a man. Maybe something happens. I don't know.
He seems a little bit like Sprat.
Yeah, he doesn't seem as quite as like with it as he does as the young version of himself.
But I guess my thought process on why the old Brimsley is the way he is like Sprat, where he's been spoiled by this job, and that's why he's a little heavier, and he's a little like, sometimes he's a little bit bolder to speak his mind when he feels like he can. I think this is a guy who is the closest, he's the Queen's best friend without actually being the Queen's best friend.
Sure.
So I think he's pretty high up the ladder in his own head and in the world, if we're being honest. But I think that really covers downstairs.
We can finally flash forward
in the past. Now we can flash forward to the old horny people.
Yeah, well, we can get Queen Charlotte out of the way again here first, I think, right?
Yeah, I think she's the least interesting, but she's got two princesses for two of her sons.
Yeah. And they meet these girls, and their sons are just like, well, who are these? And she tells them, they're your betrothed. You're going to have to marry these two. And they are so annoyed by it. And it's like, these women are attractive. What, are you dummy? Are you dummies?
Yeah, it's like, I don't think whatever sort of extracurricular activities you have to stop because you're married.
Well, I mean, I'm not endorsing that, but
I'm not endorsing it, but these guys are royalty. They seem to get away with whatever they want, which is the reason there's no heir.
Right. And they have to get married, and they are so upset that this has to happen. It's like, well, don't you understand where your mother came from? This stuff just happens in your world, okay? You can't always pick who you want to be.
It seems like they don't understand.
No, they're spoiled. And so that pretty much happens this episode. Well, they come back and they're like, you know what, you didn't get the approval of this from your oldest son. He has to sign off on this. And she's like, oh, I made a mistake. Hey, son, these two need to get married. Approve it.
You cool? You cool with that? And they're like, yeah, we're cool, Ma.
I guess so.
She dusts her hands and says, carry on.
So much for that coup. You tried.
Again, hour and 15 minutes. We needed to have this scene.
Thanks, Prince of Wales. Yeah, their boyhood's
they end
over.
the episode getting married.
And I mean, the one son does say he's afraid that he'll not be able to love her because he's been spending too long, on his own, doing his own thing.
Being a playboy.
Yeah. But she reminds him, love is determination, It takes some time. Nobody wants to be lonely.
It's not necessarily a feeling.
Got to work on it.
It's a choice.
Grab someone, hang on. And so, yeah, they're getting married.
Yeah.
I hope they bring it home with older Queen Charlotte in the show in the last episode, because I do feel like there's a weird marginalization of Queen Charlotte's story, or at least the older one, in favor of Lady Danbury, which we're about to get into. It just seems like it's the same. It's been the same beat each episode of my sons need to get married, and they're not. Humph.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
we could do a little bit more with her. I want to see some more with her.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. She's totally. I mean, I think this show does the weird thing where they try to set the tone with the older folks, and then have the younger folks inform why the older folks are the way they are.
Yeah.
But then there's some of these episodes have just decided to straight up have like C plots with old people. Like what?
Yeah.
Why?
Give us some more of Golda Rashuval, if I'm saying her name correctly. Give it.
Yeah. And then give us some more of Ruth Gemmell, Lady Violet Ledger Bridgerton.
Oh, boy. Okay, let's get into it, huh?
So she's at an art gallery with old Lady Danbury, and they're looking at paintings of naked people.
As you do.
As one does.
Maybe she needs some.
And
because
seems like, oh yeah.
Because she's asking, has the queen been bedded? Oh, maybe you need some, huh? Yeah, she's missing her man still.
But she's not just missing her man in that way. She's having some biological reactions that her man helped give her.
I mean,
as she said, Lady Danbury's like, we could talk, right? We're cool. And
yeah.
Lady Bridgerton's like, yeah, me and my man, we used to have a garden, and the garden had lots of flowers, and it was well maintained, and it was all these descriptive words about it. And Lady Danbury's like, oh, that's the kind of garden you're talking about.
Yeah. Lady Danbury pulls out a menu from the Outback Steakhouse and says, so you're feeling some thunder down under, huh? You got a bloomin' onion going on, huh? Well, wow.
Lady Bridgerton's like, you bet.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. She's in bloom. She's fanning herself. Like, she's heated. She's straight up heated, as Beyonce would say.
Yeah.
And, she wants to touch. She even says that she asked her footman to lay on top of her?
She said, I was feeling like I almost asked him to do that.
So, Lady Bridgerton...
Lady Danbury tells her... Lady Danbury's like, look, I never had a garden until after I was married. But let me say, to this day, I still keep my garden blooming if I have to.
It's 10 to 2. And she makes the point to Lady Bridgerton because they meet up later at night, that they spend so much time matchmaking, but they're never for anyone mature enough, And so, it's time to tend to the garden, nurture it fiercely.
Yeah, and they also speculate that the queen is lonely.
Right.
And it's like, you don't say.
The gardens don't die. You just got to water them. And she says it's her right to want it. Say it. And then she says she wants to be gardened as much as possible. So I am very much looking forward to next week to see who Lady Bridgerton gets down with. Do we get Ray J. Sean Page coming back and getting with his mom?
Getting with his mother-in-law just to help her?
We would have heard about that by now if that was the case, and that's obviously not happening. But I hope
maybe it'll be a pop cast though. It'll be like Dolph Lundgren or some 60-year-old hunk.
No, it's gonna be Lord Ledger's son, but he's gonna look like Lord Ledger. He looks like an older man.
And Lady Danbury's like, oh no, I want that.
Yeah. And again, like, she's lonely because all her children are busy or gone and stuff like that, so she's just left alone. So, hopefully there's someone for her to lay with, and it sparks Danbury's, mind. As we said, she was looking at the ceiling, thinking back to time, so she starts searching for something, and which is like, they even do a thing where they cut away from the scene as she's searching for something and finds it and doesn't show it to us, and it's like, it's the hat. What else is she looking for? You don't have to hide it and make it like a reveal, but yes, she finds a hat.
Finds a hat.
And she's smiling to herself, thinking back to the good times.
The good old days.
With Lord Ledger.
With an old man.
Tending to her garden.
That's the episode.
I think we're being a little harsh on Lord Ledger. He's not the most unattractive man in the world. We just know that Danbury has such potential for a partner. She could definitely.
Oh yeah, she's the most dynamic character on the show.
Oh, she's the best. I mean, Queen Charlotte, I understand, is the focus of the show and her relationship with George, but every time Danbury is on screen, both old and young, I'm more interested in what's going on with her every time.
Yeah.
Listeners, let us know if we're wrong on that or if we're off base.
I don't think we're wrong. I mean, I think that, but I feel like a lot of these shows about the monarchy are supposed to be like that, and this one is no different, where she's the more, interesting character. She's only in 3 things. The actress who plays young Lady Danbury is only in 1 episode of a TV show, a movie, and then this.
I mean, she is Lady Danbury.
I think she's gonna have a bright future after this because she's very charming. Like, she steals the show when she's on. So
yeah, well, I think she may have been also like a
stage actor.
Stage actress. She also has a BA in biological sciences from the Carnegie Mellon University and her master's of public health and health policy from Yale in 2018. What is she doing acting on Bridgerton?
Wait a minute, she's been in New Haven this whole time?
She could be saving lives. Ursula Thomas? Come on. Sheesh.
What are you doing?
I mean, she's
we are
probably
all right. We gotta,
okay.
Yeah, we gotta know where's her pizza choice in New Haven. We need to get Ursula Thomas on the line.
Yeah. Gotta ask the hard-hitting questions. And Dave, was this a good episode?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
Didn't feel like a penultimate episode. No. It didn't feel like we got one left.
A lot of stuff in the air.
Makes me wonder if we're gonna get a Queen Charlotte season 2. And knowing how successful this is, will we?
I mean, I'm down. I mean, for 6 episodes, they could have probably broke this up and made like an 8-episode series just with the length of some of these later episodes. But yeah, I mean, based on its popularity, it's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. So let's get to the rankings.
Yeah. Who do you got going down, Corey?
Number 3, I got King George. The guy almost made it to his fraternity, and he missed out. All he did was just sacrifice his body for weeks on end to no avail. Poor guy.
I'm gonna break the trend. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't include King George because he didn't do much this episode, but what he's been doing the past couple weeks. So that being said, going down to number 3, I got Adolphus.
Okay.
This dude has to ride all the way out to see his sister just for his sister to be like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, what? I'm proud of you because you're pregnant. You're the queen. And then she's like, shut up. I could have your head cut off.
I do have Adolphus at number 2 also, because he comes in flexing like he's an alpha, but he doesn't realize the game has changed. She's the queen. You don't have any power anymore, bro, or not as much as she does. So
Yeah, you're getting shot down by Brimsley.
yeah, they're telling you, you know your role. Get out of the way. You got nothing on the queen. Bye, Duke Adolphus. Who's number 2 going down for you, Dave?
I have Lady Violet Ledger Bridgerton.
Really?
Because
She's in bloom, bro.
yeah, but she got no one to tend to the garden.
Oh, well, that's true.
And the whole thing is like, I miss my man because me and my man used to get freaky a lot. And now the house is empty and I got no one to do anything with and I'm bored. And Lady Danbury's like, Lady Danbury basically tells Lady Bridgerton, it's okay for you to get down after your husband dies. But Lady Bridgerton makes no steps to get there. So,
Well, she's just...
I mean, maybe she will next week.
Yeah.
But as of right now, she's in heat with nothing to help her.
Absolutely. Well, number 1 going down, I mean, it's as bad as it gets. It's Dr. Monroe. The guy's out of his job. And he...
Yeah.
I mean, he just looks like a clown. Like, he didn't know what he was doing. He's a quack. He's losing his position of power. So, bye, Dr. Monroe. That's number 1 for me.
Yeah, you're fired.
Yeah.
What a fall from grace from Monroe.
Is that your number 1?
No, yeah, of course. Who else would it be?
I don't know. Yeah,
He spends the whole episode being like, no one can stop me. I'm all the way up. That was him last week.
Yeah.
And this week, it's like,
actually, who are you?
bye.
Just pull away his name tag.
Can
and
we see your
Dr.
degrees?
Something
Do you have
else.
any references we can talk to?
Can we get
like, oh,
Lady
no.
Danbury in here as a doctor? She seems to be more
No.
qualified.
I'm just a guy who loves dunking people in ice.
Yeah. Well, Dave, who's going up for you?
Well, number 3, I got a tie
Okay.
for our boys Brimsley and Reynolds because
Sure.
they are making moves this episode. They're having honest discussion. I think these two are secretly really shaping the narrative of the royalty right now because
Yeah.
Brimsley says to Reynolds with this letter, like, do I send it? Do I not send it? Reynolds is busting into these sort of therapy sessions with Dr. Monroe and getting thrown out. Like, these guys are really putting it all out there. And
Yeah.
we see they kind of get their way at the end.
It's true. They almost made my list, but I won't reveal who's where yet. But number 3, I got Mr. Ledger. The guy laid pipe. Kudos to that man.
Can't knock it.
Yeah, I mean, he was a nobody making hats, and man,
No, he's a nobody making hats, getting down with a Yale graduate.
hell yeah. Well, that's number 3.
Well, number 2, speaking of Lord Ledger, I got Lady Danbury.
Okay.
She's not mourning,
Yeah.
and she is. And I think when we talk about Queen Charlotte, we tend to talk about young and old, but Lady Danbury, I feel like, is much more of a consistent character between her
Front to
young
back.
self and her old self, and she just is wise beyond her years when she's young. She might not have aced the landing with Lil Dominic, but she's definitely acing the landing with Lord Ledger. So, good on her. And old Lady Danbury is very helpful to Lady Bridgerton.
Yeah.
She's getting there.
Well, at number 2, I got Queen Charlotte because she finally put her foot down, got the guy out of the room, the Dr. Monroe. She's got her man back. I think she's reasserted herself. She's also got her children married. So that she did the work that she had to do this episode. So good on Queen Charlotte moving the needle forward.
Okay. Well, I got the both iterations of Queen Charlotte at my number 1.
Oh well, I got Danbury at number 1. It's not even close.
Okay. Well, I got old. I think it's understated how old Lady Queen Charlotte has spent the whole season saying, like, you guys got to do something.
Yeah.
You got to get married. And then she just says, you're getting married. And they say, no, we're going to put this obstacle in your way.
Yeah.
And she says, I don't think so. And then one of them just starts crying to her, and she realizes, I'm a mother. I created these rotten, ugly children.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, they're not very handsome. terrible facial hair.
Yeah,
So good on her.
that's true. I mean, they're not the ugliest of mutts. Her sons.
I mean, for royalty, they don't dress well.
Yeah.
They're a little disheveled. They're not well kept.
Yeah. Well, I got Danbury at number 1 though, just because she really does the Lord's work in helping Lady Bridgerton find her groove back. You know, just reawaken a little bit, and then also just finding herself after her husband dies. You know, so. I mean, and she's so knowing, and like we get the sweet moments of her just just hanging out with Ledger, having good company, and navigating the whole thing of potentially losing her house, and maybe she doesn't have to. Kudos to her.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah, she and it's just her charisma, just won over by her. That conversation this week on the show was a lot longer than last week, Dave.
Oh yeah. That's what when I saw it was an hour and 15. I was like, okay.
They packed it in.
They pack it in. Well, they do, and that's that.
Dave, have you been watching anything else?
I caught up on. I'm still one behind on Succession.
Oh, come on.
It's too long. I keep falling asleep early. Can't get. I also. I am. If it's spoiled for me, that's on me. I take full blame.
That's not okay, but okay.
It's not okay, but it's one of those things.
It's not right, but it's okay.
It's Succession. It's well written. You could tell me how it ends, and I'd be like, okay, and still watch me entertain.
Okay.
So that's the one. I'm not all the way up, but I did finish Ted Lasso, and I finished I finished. I Think You Should Leave. I watched all of that.
Okay.
And I saw Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse, right? Not Beyond. Beyond the Spider-Verse is the next one.
Yeah.
And
good movie.
All good. I'm a big I Think You Should Leave fan. This season was very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little uneven.
Yeah.
Compared. Oh, and I finished Barry too, which that was a fantastic ending.
That was really good. It's really good.
Yeah, a lot of things. That's why I didn't finish Succession because the episodes are so long. I could get all the Barrys, all the Tim Robinson, all the Ted Lassos, and the Spider-Man in that time. What about you?
I mean, yeah, it's been so busy, man. Yeah, I mean, really, it was just making a concerted effort to see Spider-Man before Optimus Prime comes in and knocks him out of IMAX. And Spider-Man was fantastic. Everyone's been hyping it up as one of the best things out there, and I mean, believe the hype in terms of the visuals and everything. You won't see anything else like it. Loved it, man.
Oh yeah.
Definitely need to see the next one though. But yeah, I mean, honestly, in terms of other stuff watching, I can't even describe it. There's too much going on. I can't keep track of anything right now, man.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week we'll be able to say we saw Optimus Prime.
I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do that, man. I'm going.
I'm
to
not
California.
rushing to see that one.
Yeah. But anyways, though, we will be covering the finale of Queen Charlotte next week, finally. And the show is still in the top 10, so we're still talking about something relevant. And
yeah.
Thanks for listening if you've made it this far. And if you want to find more of us, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Hit us up at lordsgrantham@gmail.com. We have our Patreon if you want to talk to us on our Lords Grantham Lounge. Get some bonus episodes. We need to do another episode. We know. And you can also leave us a 5-star rating and review if you so choose on our on any podcast channel that you listen to us on. You can find our whole archive on Podbean. But with that, we will catch you next week on the show.